Yes, we know that her son has already beaten her, and that's one of the biggest problems we are aware of. Sometimes the police or neighbors or the surroundings are aware of violence, domestic violence, and we can't see any solutions given, which is a big part of the problem, because when we know about violence, we have to solve the situation. So that's a big part of the problem. Another thing is, of course, and every time I come to you guys, which is saddening, we still are not getting enough funds to bring enough work around domestic violence in Israel, and it's becoming a pandemic.
Now, a report from the State Comptroller's Office released last month found that inadequate funding, which you just mentioned, and also chaotic policies for dealing with domestic violence are making it harder to curb domestic violence. You mentioned this. You know, we're talking about a scenario with what happened today where people knew that this woman was being beaten. She had been beaten in the past by her own son. Tell us about some of the obstacles here that victims face and survivors face when it comes to getting their stories reported.
We know that oftentimes when women come to the police, sometimes it's, a shorthand by the police, but sometimes it's just the treatment is not right, and we don't have enough social workers, and we don't have enough, linguistic services. If someone comes and she's Arab speaking, Amharic, or any other Russian, any other language that is not Hebrew, sometimes it's just a problem of understanding her. It's not the problem in this situation because it was a Hebrew speaking woman, but still everyone, when you see the items, you see people knew that that her son during the corona has lost his job and started beating his mother. And still we see that nothing has been done. And even when we go to the police, women go back home and they have no effort other than sometimes they give a warrant and the time passes and we go back to the circle of violence. So there aren't any, we have a law standing with the azikonim, and it's not being passed by the Knesset, and that's really saddening because, when we see in the coronavirus, if you're going out of isolation, everyone knows, you know it by your mobile, you know it by other means, but when somebody is violent and you can catch the person who's violent and you're not taking all the measurements to do it, that's a big, big problem.
So how much has domestic violence actually increased in Israel?
Terribly. Actually, we don't know the exact numbers because not all the violence is reported, unfortunately. But, we see during the corona that, we saw the numbers. We remember just when the coronavirus started, we saw an increase in hundreds of % for women who were going to report to the police. And we see the increase in the number of women who are beaten or murdered. So, we're used to having around 20, an average of 20 or 20-something women a year. I think this year, 2021, we're going to see an increase in the numbers of the women who are murdered. But that's only the end of the phenomenon, which is, it's a whole gradient of violence, unfortunately, which we see that is increasing and increasing because people are losing their job, right. People are sitting in isolations in their houses, people are more stressed, and people are tending to violence.
So quick answer here. I want to know, what is your organization doing to combat this issue? Because the new Bennett government has promised to take action. So what are you hoping to see done?
So after the protest we've done in 2018 and some of the money was transferred, we are now building a coalition of over 100 organizations, and that is why Ani-Isha, a woman movement, was built in order to connect between feminist organizations that are doing this work all over the country and do it together to create more civic force because we're not getting answers.